we think of life as a sport, no one is really talking to the everyday life. There's people that are going after hiking. There's people going after climbing. There's people going after cycling. There's no one that's truly attacking life as a sport for however old you are, whether you're 22, whether you're 45, whether you're 65. We are all very active. I think as a society coming out of COVID, health is really at the forefront, and people want to look good doing things outdoors and outside, whatever that means to you. We tend to go after the core, the hardcore, the top of the mountain. But through my career, it's the everyday people that still want to get outside, that still want to look the part, that still want to look good doing those things.
Today's conversation is one that I've been looking forward to, not because it's flashy, but because it's real. Sara Lawhead is in a chapter of her career that doesn't get enough attention. She's worked inside large organizations, managed multiple brands, led big teams, operated in fast, high-pressure environments. And now she's leading Thacker, building it in a different way. Founder-led, long-term, intentional, not chasing quarterly spikes, building something that lasts. We talk a lot in this industry about innovation and growth. We don't always talk about judgment. How do you read retailer confidence? How do you introduce a newer brand into a cautious market? How do you decide where to invest when there isn't a clear playbook? Sara has lived on the product side, the commercial side, the brand side. There's a red thread in her career. She builds teams, product, partnerships, strategy. It's two of us talking shop today about pattern recognition, about persistence, about leadership at a different altitude. So, you're in this interesting chapter right now. You've been in big public companies, you've been in private equity, and now you're building something in a founder-led environment. What actually feels different?
Well, thank you, Tony, for having me and for allowing me to kind of share some insights into my journey. What feels different about Thacker is the intentionalness, the thoughtfulness, the pace at which we are truly understanding where the opportunity is in the market for a long-term play.
You mentioned pace is slower in a good way. How does that change the way you think?
The pace is slower in a good way for me, just because in terms of coming from my last role, I was managing 6 brands. We're, developing over 50 products a year. This is one brand. This is at the very foundation of really identifying who the consumer is and also what products are going to be different for the market and what retailers we want to partner with. This is not a shotgun approach where we're going to go out and show this to everybody. It's a unique brand. It's a unique product. And it's really going after the urban consumer, which in the outdoor industry is somewhat shied away from. We tend to go after the core, the hardcore, the top of the mountain. But through my career, it's the everyday people that still want to get outside, that still want to look the part, that still want to look good doing those things, whether going on a hike on the weekend or they're going to a kid's soccer practice or they're catching, some sushi in New York City with their girlfriend. But I think there's a big opportunity an unmet need for those consumers out there. And that's what we're really going after. And that's what we're really being intentional about.
When you're not chasing quarterly earnings, what do you start paying attention to instead?
It's honestly, it's the partnership and who we're surrounding ourselves with. A good example is we have just gone to a series of trade shows. And really, it was to allow the founder to understand what the landscape looks like, who are the brands that are playing within the space, what are the conversations being had on the floor with retailers. So we started with Switchback back in June, and that was really our first introduction into the outdoor and active lifestyle market. And then we went to GOA, which is a specialty retail group. After that, we went to the running event, TRE. And then lastly, we ended with Surf Expo. And so really purposefully understanding the different landscapes within, while they're all speaking to the outdoor consumer, they're very different outdoor consumers. Really understanding where the excitement is, where people are a little bit more bullish, and where people are a little bit more reserved. And it definitely opened up our eyes in terms of where we want to put our focus going forward. And you know this, but the running market is on fire. There's some huge competitor brands that came into the space and challenged Nike and Adidas and Under Armour, the Ons, the Hokas of the world. There's new brands like Kip Run and Satisfy that are coming in and really driving excitement. And so the buzz at that show was much different than at Surf Expo. And so it's fun to see. And there, we have real conversations about different people are coming into those shops and they're looking for different things. And so it's really understanding who the retailers are, but then also who the consumers are coming through the door. So we can help put those pieces together and help them it's been a very shaky market, right, for the retailers. When you find those opportunities, it's to help put those pieces together for the retailers and tell that story.
I see. In our pregame, you said something I liked. You said the red thread in your life is building teams, products, brands, even crown molding. What does building in this type of market mean to you?
This market, I think there's a lot of optimism, right, in terms of this new consumer coming into the market, new opportunities. There's amazing women-led brands like Scenic and Wild Ride and Half Days that are coming onto the scene. And for me, as a female in a very much male-dominated outdoor and sports world, it's really exciting to see that and to be a part of that. I want to continue to build that movement to help women, to help people get outside and look good while they're doing it. Again, whatever they're doing. We think of life as a sport. No one is really talking to the everyday life. There's people that are going after hiking. There's people going after climbing. There's people going after cycling. There's no one that's truly attacking life as a sport for however old you are, whether you're 22, whether you're 45, whether you're 65. We are all very active. I think as a society coming out of COVID, health is really at the forefront and people want to look good doing things outdoors and outside, whatever that means to you. Building to me is kind of understanding, putting all those pieces together, right? Understanding what came out of COVID, understanding how the younger generation is changing. I just saw a stat like alcohol is down 58% because the younger kids aren't drinking anymore. They want to go outside. And I think, the older generation too is out of college, really focusing on their health. They want to get outside too. And so it's being able to kind of triangulate and understand all the different elements that are going on in the world. And then bring that back to the retailers and help them understand and tell that story, who the consumer is, what their needs and wants are, and how we can help them really elevate their game and speak to a different consumer that's coming in the door.
I like that. Life is a sport. And Sarah, I agree. Health is starting to take the forefront for all ages. And we need that. When you're starting from scratch, though, what's the first brick?
People. People are always the first brick for me. And that's how I met you, right? So that, the red thread that goes through a lot is people. And it's understanding who you want to talk to, where you think there's an opportunity in the space. And so whether it's, you're building a team and putting the pieces together. I've coached collegiately. I also coach my daughter's 8U softball team. And it's really understanding what you have to work with in terms of who your internal team is. And then the next step is understanding who the consumers are, right? Who you want to talk to. You can't be everything to everyone. And so it's really finding out where your target market is. And then after that, it's the people at retail, right? Understanding who those people are, understanding their needs and wants. Everybody is looking to grow. Everybody is looking, for that magic bullet. And it's really understanding all the different dynamics to build something that helps everyone. And that's what I get up out of bed every day. That's why I love to be in product, to be in brands. Because to me, it's tangible things that you can get in front of people, you can get reactions to. You can have meaning, not that you can't have meaningful conversations, but people are really passionate about things they can touch and feel and see. So for me, people all day, every day. And then your network, right? And that's how I met you. I continue to keep in touch with my former colleagues, see what's going on in their world, continue to help people, right? Hey, do you know anybody that's a product manager? I just had that call yesterday. 100%. I recommend this person. So people to me is number one when you build anything. You've got to have the right team. You've got to understand who you're going after. And then you've got to partner with people who understand what you're trying to do.
People are everything. And it's like I've shared with you before, it's amazing that before you and I actually met, I had known about you through multiple other individuals for, I think, at least two steps in your career. Sarah, is building a brand actually that different from building a room in your home?
I don't think so, but that's the way my brain works. I was joking with you last week and I love to build. I built a fort for my kids. We went skiing last week in Colorado and I built a fort for my kids in the bunk bed. And so for me, it breaks down to very simple building blocks. What do you have, right? What are the materials you have? What do you want to do? And then how do you make a plan that you can bite off in bite-sized pieces to get it done? And that's one of the things that I really love. I love the strategy behind it. I love trying to triangulate and figure out all the pieces and how they fit together. I'm not a trained craftsman, but I love watching YouTube videos. I love figuring out how things work. And it's a messy process, but that's what I love about it. And for this brand, for Thacker NYC specifically, there is no roadmap. We get to create that and we get to do it very intentionally and figure out and very deliberately what are those steps and how do we build it. No one has all the answers. But if you have the time, if you have the conversations, and if you continue to put the pieces in place, that's what I love to do. And I think that's what building, whether it's DIY my house or whether it's building a brand or a product is all about.
You were a multi-sport athlete, Division One,
Mm-hmm.
and then you step in as a college soccer goalie when both goalies tear their ACLs.
Uh-huh.
That's not normal. What did that teach you about pressure?
Oh, that was easy. That was the easy part. I think, I was very fortunate in throughout my athletic career to be on successful teams, successful programs. I was a four-year starter at DePaul University for our softball team. And 2 of the years we went to the College World Series. So we were playing at the top level of women's softball. To me, that was the pressure. Going to play soccer my 5th year to help them out. That was one, I just loved helping people. But two, it was also fun. I got to stay. I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. So I got to finish my 5th year. I got to stay busy playing soccer and I got to enjoy a whole new team. We were very close as a athletic department, but traveling and being on the soccer team was fun for me.
Do you think being an athlete gave you an edge in our industry?
Yes. I don't think you have to be an athlete, but selfishly, and I always put it back on myself, I think learning at a very young age how to be on a team, how to play with others, how to interact and deal with pressure situations definitely helped me in my career and me as a person overall. I love sports. I love doing things. I also love pressure. And I'm not sure if that had anything to do with athletics, but I think athletics helped me understand how to deal with all those things, even through my business career.
Going back to when you started as the goalie and what you just shared about enjoying pressure, do you remember that first game?
Oh, it's terrible. We played St. John's. I think I whiffed I think, I stopped the ball and then I put it down and I went to go kick it, to one of the midfielders and I totally whiffed it. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I definitely remember that. I have a short-term memory. I think my mom thinks it's my biggest asset because I don't hold on to anything. Nothing really sticks with me. If I get angry, I speak my piece and then let it roll off my shoulders and I'm happy 2 seconds later. But that is one vivid memory that I was like, oh, maybe I should have practiced a little bit harder before volunteering. Be like, yeah, I'll help you guys.
Is leadership more physical than people admit?
To me, it's not. I think it's more compassionate than people think. I think you really have to understand who you are working with, whether it's your team or whether it's upper management. And you have to understand my former colleagues, she taught me this, and it's a simple exercise, but it's called birds. And it's how to communicate, how you communicate, and then how other people communicate. It's kind of similar to like 5 love languages, but it's an exercise to understand how you want to be talked to, but then more importantly, how other people want to be talked to. And there's 4 different birds. One's a peacock, one's an owl, one's a dove, and one is an eagle. And the peacock is very fun and, loves to getting all the details and long-winded stories versus the owl is very reserved and very wise, doesn't say much, takes it all in, needs some time to process. And then there's the dove, which is the peacemaker, right? They want everyone to be happy. They want everyone to kind of understand what's going on. They don't want to rock the boat. And then there's the eagle. And the eagle is tell it to me straight. Tell me what I need to know. I'm going to receive the information and give you that direct feedback right back. I'm an eagle. And so I very much like to be told, like, I don't need all the details. I just need to be told what it is, what we're doing about it, and that's how I like to receive communication. It's also how I give communication. But as a leader, I also have to understand my team. Not everyone communicates like that. The leadership, not everyone communicates like that. And so you have to have the awareness of who you're talking to and how they receive, or at least try to understand, how they like to be talked to or how they like to receive information. That's why relationships and people are so important. The more you understand who you're talking to and how they operate, I think the better united and the better overall the conversation, the project, the process, the business will go.
That's the first time I've heard about bird. Is it bird or it's birds?
It's an exercise called the birds, and it's a series, I think, of like 8 to 10 questions. And
Okay.
I will have to follow up with you afterwards, and maybe we'll link it in the chat. But it's any team that I'm on, I do it because it's truly mind blowing on how people like to be communicated with. And then the next part is like, once you know it, you actually have to do it. That's the second battle of that part.
I love that. It reminds me of a book that I read early in my sales career called Sales Dogs. So you can get where this is going.
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you the dogs, and I don't have to describe them. You've got the pit bull, the golden retriever, the poodle, the chihuahua, and the basset hound. And they're each the different profile, the type of salesperson.
Yeah.
Sara, you've been in those top to top meetings, Dick's, REI, Bass Pro, Shields.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, retailers feel cautious.
Yeah.
How do you read the room?
Going into the top to top meetings, it's not all of a sudden you just get to have a top to top. Everyone's time is very precious. And so when you get the opportunity to speak with the senior leadership of, these great organizations, it's very purposeful, right? It is business planning, it's strategy. Oftentimes you're working with, DMMs, the senior DMMs ahead of those calls. And so it's not just out of the blue, but it is a great opportunity to share where the business is going. What is the 3-year, 5-year product pipeline look at? This is a relationship build. This is to make sure that usually you're having a pretty successful business with these if you're getting a top to top. Otherwise, it's, you don't necessarily get those opportunities. So it is understanding kind of listening to them, right? Hey, what are your objectives? What are your future goals? Oftentimes they're sharing, what their strategic plan is. And then we share ours. And then it's okay, how do we build something together and continue to have a meaningful partnership going forward? The last few years was extremely tense with tariffs for everybody. It caused a lot of turmoil within the businesses. And so those conversations were tough. How we managed those was because we had a great partnership going into it. It wasn't a one-way street. It was like, hey, here's the business plan. Here's how we're going to mitigate these. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're asking for you, right? In those type of situations, it has to be a partnership. It can't be a one-way street. And that's why having a plan, having a strategy, understanding what their needs are versus ours, and putting that together is so important in those top-to-top meetings.
In the tense meetings, specifically around the tariff situation, was there any meetings you had where there was someone totally resistant to the tariffs or a certain type of product line that wasn't being affected?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was across the board. There was so much uncertainty, and everybody obviously wants their business to succeed. Everybody was always, was protecting themselves. And a lot of the prices were increased. And, some of the conversations were, you can't take that price up over $100. It'll never sell. As a brand, we have to be able to, one, make sure we are a profitable business. We have to make sure we're looking at the best interest for us long term while still understanding, our partnerships and relationships. But yeah, there was some really tough conversations. And it was mainly because of, there was so much uncertainty around if things were going to shift, when they were going to shift, the timing of it all. I don't think we're out of it yet, but I think people have gotten a little bit more comfortable. And because of the partnerships, those that did have good partnerships, I think are coming out of it ahead.
Some brands, they read the tea leaves before the tariffs.
Mm.
And Thacker was one of them. And curious, is that strategy that took place years ago before this happened, is that impacting Thacker's business in a positive way?
I mean, it just allowed us to not to have those chaotic conversations and make any quick decisions. I think we saw where the manufacturing was happening, and many businesses did. And I think what you see in the news is obviously inflated. There was many businesses that I was a part of that have already started to migrate out and diversify, so they're not single sourced. And that's exactly what Thacker did. They kind of understood what was going on in China, where their opportunities, where their partnerships were, and how we continue to move. So for us, yeah, it still impacted the business, but at a much, I think, not as much as it did some of the other brands. And we're fortunate enough that we're in cut and sew, right? And that skill set has multiple manufacturing facilities, whereas something like a rotomolded cooler or a Stanley, right? There is not that skill and expertise in manufacturing. It's pretty specific to certain areas of the world. And so we're fortunate enough in the product that we have, we can have some flexibility. But yeah, we saw that early on, wanted to definitely diversify our manufacturing partners. And we had great partners that were along with us planning that a few years ago.
Huh. You told me surf is contracting, running is expanding. How much
Now,
of
don't
leadership?
quote me on that. That was just, I mean, that was our feeling, right, at the trade show.
I'm sensing it too. I'm sensing it too. And wait till we get you'll see when my next guest
Uh-huh.
comes on, and we're gonna go into that a little bit. So what you said is actually what I'm seeing and I'm hearing in daily conversations also. So I'm not gonna quote you, everyone. That's my quote. Tell me this. How much of leadership is just then pattern recognition?
That's a good question. I think in terms of, we'll go back to surf and where my kind of inclination came from is you look at the brands within the surf industry, the Roxys, the Hurleys, the Quicksilvers. Unfortunately, they got all acquired. And so now a majority of them are under one umbrella, owned by private equity. And a lot of the senior leadership that built those brands and built the DNA is exited the business. And I've seen that firsthand in one of the brands that I was a part of, right? Once that special sauce, once the founder, once that DNA has really left the business, and not to say that the team can't duplicate that, but it gets harder and harder and harder as new leadership comes in, as new ideas come in, to continue that passion and continue that excitement. And unfortunately, private equity drives a lot of that because they want to return on the business. They want to make sure that they're getting their money back out. And I've seen it time and time again. Private equity comes in, they change leadership from a founder led to, someone from a corporate America. And unfortunately, the brand slowly, not that it dies, but I just think the DNA isn't there anymore. It gets sucked out.
And there's probably nowhere it's more critical than the surf industry, right? You've got the core individuals, the DNA of how these brands were even started, the stories of these brands and the way that they were conceived.
Yeah.
Oftentimes is shocking.
Out of a garage, out of a backyard, out of the friends, going to the beach every day. And that's why I am super excited about where I am today is it's a founder led. Ron he's been in this career, for a number of years. And this is a passion project for him. And he saw the opportunity, saw the white space. He put all the pieces together and there's a lot of conviction behind it. And it's so energizing. And I know you've talked to Ron, but that's what makes a brand and that's what gets people behind it. Product is great, but the storytelling, the conviction, the excitement, that's what gets consumers drawn into the brand.
Ron definitely has vision, like very few that I've had exposure to.
Yeah.
When you walk into a retail meeting with a newer brand, what gives them confidence?
If you're going in with something that you have confidence in and you've tested and you've got something that you're super proud of, I think that gives me confidence. I can't speak for anyone else. And the product we're making today, I was a consumer well before I came into this brand. I told my husband 2 years ago to buy me a bag for my birthday because I saw it at Nordstrom's. I knew it was different. I saw the quality of the product and it solved a need for me as a consumer. Everybody was wearing Lululemon crossbodies and I didn't want to be like everybody. So I wanted something unique. I wanted something different and I wanted it still did exactly what I needed to do, but it was a new and emerging brand. And so I was a consumer well before and it caught as a product designer, as a product developer, it caught my eye. And so that's what gives me the confidence to walk into a room with retailers is the product should be able to sell itself. And then once you add all the rest of the ingredients, the storytelling, the white space, the consumer, the opportunity for them, I think that's what the magic, the secret sauce is putting all that together and getting them just as excited.
Serendipity. When I called you and you owned a Thacker bag.
Oh,
Looking
Tony,
back
I
at
saw your
that.
post. I was like, no, I have to. Like, you and I have obviously been connected for a few years, and I was looking for a transition in my career, and I saw this LinkedIn post, and I was like, this. Oh, my eyes were like, oh my gosh, I have to have this. This brand is absolutely amazing. I know nothing about it, but I knew the product. I knew that there was like such an opportunity because they were looking to get in the outdoors. I remember very distinctly where I was when I was talking to you and you're like, Sarah, I don't know. Like, I know your skill set. I know you're good. I don't know if this is it. And I was like, Tony, just like, give me a conversation because I believe in the brand and I believe that there's opportunity in the marketplace. And you're right. Serendipity, the stars aligned and here I am.
The chance, I typically when I put the press releases out, the search is well underway.
Uh-huh.
And then talking with you and thinking to myself, Ron will want to talk with you also, but you're not matching the exact profile we had originally started with. Serendipity. Sarah, what does real partnership with specialty retail look like today?
Good question. It depends on who the retailer is, but I think to me, it's all relationship. It's how you treat them, how you talk to them, how they talk to you, how you understand what their needs and wants are, and how you work together as a team. Team has always been in my life from a very young age, and you have to build that trust. You have to build the communication, and you have to build that partnership with whoever you're working with, whether it's an agency, whether it's a retailer, whether it's someone that is coming into the brand to help out. It's all about making sure there's open communication and understanding what each side needs and wants, and then putting those pieces together. I feel like I sound like a broken
Mm,
record. This is
mm. No, it's consistent. You've lived on both sides of it. Brand, product, commercial. Where do most brands most often get it wrong?
to me, it's truly understanding who the brand is and what they stand for. I think you get excited, you hear from retailers, hey, we need, you're doing so well. And if you did this, this, and this, that would be great. And you're then serving more of the retailer than staying true to the brand. And then you grow and grow and grow, and you get further away from where you truly are as a brand, and you start muddying your messaging. You start muddying what you stand for. And I'm not saying you can't continue to expand, but I think a lot of the reasons are because the retailer is telling you what they want, and not necessarily it's coming from the brand side of here's what we are building.
What does listening actually look like in a retailer conversation?
Is hard because it depends on who's talking. Everybody has different initiatives. Everybody wants to grow the business. Everybody wants to be successful. But staying true to who the brand is, who the product is, and understanding what their needs are. Because we've had retailers come up to us and say, "Hey," and this is at Wilson Sporting Goods. "Hey, we need a $20 glove because we think consumers are going to buy that." It's like, we don't want to make a $20 glove. We make a $400 A2000. Like, we're not going to diminish our brand to go after that. Yes, it's a great idea. Yes, you have an opportunity there, but that's not right for us. That's not where we want to grow the business. So it's being able to listen. It's being able to understand what their opportunities are. And so in that instance, it was like, okay, hey, what if we created, an opportunity? It was a different brand. So it wasn't associated with Wilson. But hey, what if it
Mm,
was X, Y,
mm.
and Z brand opening? We have the product, we have the production capabilities, we have the skill set. I think we can meet that price point, but we don't want to put Wilson's name on it. So can we work with you? And so it's being able to stand your ground, but also come up with opportunities and alternative solutions.
Is compromising weakness or strategy?
I think it depends on the opportunity. There's always compromise, right? You have to compromise in life, but I think as long as it still stays true to the brand, there's opportunity to do so.
Innovation is one of those words everyone throws around. You don't love how it's used. What what do they misunderstand about innovation?
Innovation, I think, is such a big word. Everyone wants new innovation, new awards, new this. Everyone's always looking for this innovation. But to me, innovation can be a lot of different things. It could be a new innovative way of working together, of shipping product, leveraging your manufacturing, right? It could be investing in machinery that may increase production time. It can be understanding market trends and colors. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking new innovation. And I think for me that really probably 5 years ago that broke through because I was always looking for the new next thing that no one ever created. And unfortunately, that's 99% of things have already been made in this world. And so it's understanding either how to make them better, how to reapproach. So great example, I was leading product development for GCI and we make camping rocking chairs. And we made blue, black, gray, or red. If you wanted a sideline sport chair, the most comfortable sideline sport chair, those are your options. We had the opportunity to work with Academy and they said, hey, we have this female consumer. The moms are the shop The moms are the sideline sports moms, and none of this product is speaking to them. And so we created an entire line of leopard, of purple, of pink, of fuchsia, and it sold like crazy. So much so, it's a big part of GCI's product innovation now is how do we make sure that we're really speaking to the end consumer, whether it's neons or pastels. We still certainly have the blacks, the red, the grays, but that is innovation. It's understanding who else is out there and how do we continue to talk to them to grow our market share.
How do you keep teams from freezing because something isn't new enough?
I think just keep moving. The indecision, and one of the things that I teach my team is make a decision. Make a decision to move on. Whether it's right or wrong, we don't know. But the indecisiveness, the going back to the well of this isn't just quite right. If it's not right, it's not right. Move on. We've had so many projects, and in product development is really hard. It's often an 18 to 24-month development cycle, right? So you're projecting 2 years in advance of making this product until when it actually hits the floor at retail. There's a lot of manufacturing. There's a lot of tooling. There's a lot of intricate design work that goes into it. Working with engineers, their drive is always to be perfect. This piece isn't quite perfect enough. And so the hard part in terms of we got to make a decision. Is this product ready to go or not? Yes, we can tweak this for the next 8 months, but is it, and I mean this in the best way possible, is it good enough? Is it going to meet expectations of and I want the best product in the market as possible. And I'm not saying that we don't make that, but oftentimes there's decisions of like, oh, we could tweak this one more thing to make it better. It's like, no, this is great. Make a decision. It's good to go. Move on. And if you can't, it just continues to stall. And unfortunately, the retail cycle, especially in the outdoor industry, is either spring, summer is the big market. If you don't hit spring, summer launch, you're hitting fall, winter. And in the outdoors, it's a much smaller launch cycle just because there's not a lot of floor space for a lot of the product. They move into the ski and snowboard, and there's not as much space for the outdoor product on the physical floor of those retail stores.
You said something really honest to me last week.
Mm.
You've hit brick walls lately trying to get responses.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned about persistence?
Whew. This is a big one for me, and this is a big learning in my career. The pleasant persistence, starting with a new company that doesn't necessarily have the retail placement. And it's a lot of cold calling. And I'm sure you've done you haven't done it lately, but I'm sure you've done a lot of cold calling in your life. It takes persistence. It takes determination. It takes multiple touch points. And I think not to get discouraged. Everybody is so busy these days. In my last role, my calendar, I had to block out time for lunch just so I could sit down and eat. Because it was meetings from 8 in the morning till 5 at night. And then oftentimes we'd get back on the phone to talk with our China facility and our manufacturing partners because they're, in a different time zone. So I'd be back on the phone from 9 to 11 at night. So I get it. Everybody's moving at such a fast pace. Emails are stacking up. Everybody is on their phone. We're so inundated with emails and text messages and social media. It's hard. It's really hard to respond to everybody. And so I have to remind myself that as in this role it does take multiple times, like pleasant persistence. It's quick reminders. It's, hey, let me introduce you to the brand. Oh, hey, by the way, I saw this article. I thought of you. Even if you haven't got a response. And I know on the other end, when people reached out to me multiple times, and I hadn't had a chance to get back to them after the third or fourth time, I'm like, I need to get back to them. And I'd also say, if you're not interested, just say, no, we're not interested at this time, because it helps them move on as well. And so, you and I chatted a little bit about the AI bots that are sending constant reminders. But to me, this has to be genuine, and it has to be from you, especially when you're starting a new brand, a new business, because it should feel personal. It should feel like you are trying to get in touch with them because you can help solve one of their problems. So I would say pleasant persistence on outgoing, but then also being respectful enough to respond to people if they've reached out multiple times with a yes or no, because it just helps people move on.
There's a difference between annoying and pleasantly persistent.
Yeah.
And I appreciate how you shared how you walked that line.
Yes.
For someone early in their career, what should they understand about follow-up?
Oh, it's the number one thing that I tell. I talk to a lot of seniors in college, a lot of people that are looking for internships. You have to be proactive. No one's going to come looking for you, unfortunately. You've got to make the connections, you've got to network, and you have to follow up. If you don't, like I said, everyone's really busy and just out of sight, out of mind, they move on. And I've told several people that I've talked to, and they're looking for my help and my network. And I said, hey, look, I'm traveling next week. If I don't get back to you, send me a note the following week. Remind me, please. I'm asking you to remind me because I will forget. And some people have, some people haven't.
In a world of AI emails and
Yeah.
automation,
Mm-hmm.
I believe relationships will always win. And I hope I'm
100%.
right.
100%. It is one of the big reasons we're going to these trade shows as well is to get in front of people. Sending someone an email is, we get millions of emails a day, right? But if you have and can talk to them in person, if you can show them the product, if you have that opportunity, I think it's so much more powerful than sending over a catalog and saying, hey, check out what we're doing here. So we're being very purposeful on where we're showing up, who we're talking to, and how do you get in front of those people? It matters.
It does. You brought on a sales agency recently. That's a meaningful decision. How did you know it was time?
I think, in terms of our brand strategy, I feel like we have a really good idea of who we are, the product that we want to move forward with, and now we need people boots on the ground to help us tell that story. Right? This is expanding our network. They have the connections. They have, the people that they're texting the retailers. They're going on ski trips with the retailers, right? And so they have that connection that we haven't been able to really get to as fast as I like. And so it's leveraging their knowledge and expertise. And so we did our work on the front end. We've got our brand strategy. We've got our product assortment. Now we need people to help us make those connections. And I can't wait for the next 6 months. It's going to be really exciting to see the conversations we have and the opportunities that come out of partnering with this new agency.
When there's no clear playbook, what does conviction look like?
I think, again, it goes back to understanding what the brand is, right? And understanding and having conversations and see where those conversations go. I will tell you, we showed up at these trade shows looking completely different than anything you've ever seen before. We had welders' masks on our mannequins. We had gas masks on some of them. We had handwritten banners with quotes from, Roosevelt, really talking about what we stand for and almost, very similar to an art exhibit, right? Where we wanted people to stop and take a look at what we're doing. One of the first shows, we actually went to a military surplus store, in a local military surplus store, and we rented crates and missile containers and ammo canisters. And we used that to display our product. And it was probably the least expensive booth I've ever done at a trade show. And it was the most successful because it was true. It was authentic. It got people to stop and really, what is going on here? It was so funny. One of the retailers walked by and was like, what have you done? And in the best way possible. And I was like, tell me more. And so I think, in today's rat race where everybody's trying to do very similar things and there's a playbook for everything. You got to get your catalog and your price list and your, all in this in sequentially. Yes, you need to do that, but you also need to make an impact. You also need to stop and make people look at what you're doing. And Ron, I have to give Ron a huge credit to that because he's thinking about these things different. He's thinking about what would make people stop and have a meaningful. We showed up at these trade shows looking completely different than anything you've ever seen before. We had welders' masks on our mannequins, gas masks on some of them. We had handwritten banners with quotes from, Roosevelt, really talking about what we stand for, and very similar to an art exhibit, right? Where we wanted people to stop and take a look at what we're doing. One of the first shows, we actually went to a military surplus store and we rented crates and missile containers and ammo canisters. And we used that to display our product. And it was probably the least expensive booth I've ever done at a trade show. And it was the most successful because it was true. It was authentic. It got people to stop and really, what is going on here? And I will tell you, 80% of the people don't get it. They're like scared or, well, this isn't for me. But the 20% of the people that are intrigued, that stop and have the conversation with us, they get it. They see what's around the corner. They understand all of these different touch points, all of the things that are going on in the world, and they're really excited about it, which I think I know you asked about a playbook, but it's getting those reactions, right? And it's having those conversations to help them map out the strategy. We don't have all the answers, but I think we can have those conversations and we can understand what people are looking for and how we can help fit into some of those opportunities.
Mm. You know, one of my favorite Roosevelt quotes, and I'm not sure which one you had at the trade show in the booth, but it goes something like this. It's not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yes,
People doing the
really
work.
powerful.
Yep.
People doing the work.
Everybody's got something to say, but if you're standing there and actually doing the work, that's where the magic happens.
That actually reminds me of another quote. It's actually similar based on, kind of a theme of what we're talking about right here. And Stephen Pressfield is an author who wrote The War of Art, but he's also screen wrote Bagger Vance, one of my favorite writers of all time. A quote that helps me, especially when you're new and you're coming out and you're swinging. The quote goes something like this. It's better to be in the arena getting trampled by the bull than being in the stands or outside.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they both have an arena type quote.
Yeah.
You came from environments where speed was everything.
Mm.
Now you're building slower. Why is slower sometimes smarter?
I think it allows us to have the conversations. It allows us to be more intentional because we're building this, right? And we don't have all the answers. And so, yes, we've got a point of view. Yes, we have amazing product, but you go and talk to retailers, they may have a different opportunity.
What does building for the long term require that most people overlook?
Patience. It's having the patience to not jump into something that's not right. I think that's really refreshing in my current role is we're not looking to go a shotgun approach and have everybody and everyone have this, right? It is a slow build. It is intentional. We want to make sure that we're building the brand as we want it. And we really have conviction and passion behind that. And so we are looking for the right partners to help tell our story and to help get behind it the way we want to get behind it because we're doing things a little bit differently. And it is bucking trends. It is bucking the playbook. I think it will be hard for a lot of these, corporate America. Everybody has a playbook. Everybody does it very similar. And we're intentionally doing things different, right? Because I think Rana has such good foresight around what's coming next in terms of the retail landscape, in terms of the consumer landscape. And things are slowly changing. And in 3 years, 5 years, I think it's going to be a different landscape. And we want to start planting that seed now so that when this wave happens, we're seen as one of, the forefront of this. And early adoption's tough, right? There's only a small percentage of people that are early adopters in this world. And we are doing that, right? And we want to do it in a meaningful way and something that's true to us and true to the brand and that's sustainable for the long term. And I think
Mm,
that's different from a lot of the other brands out there today.
mhm, mhm. You mentioned feeling healthier in this role,
Yeah.
less frantic, more grounded. What did you stop carrying?
I have an amazing team that I think believe in what we're doing and is excited about what we're doing versus some of the past roles that I've led. It was a means to an end. It was
Mm,
very transactional. It was very
mm,
contentious. It was not about brand building. It was all about we need to get this product done so we have something new. And I think
mm,
that was hard for me and my team. I was the cheerleader. I, never let my team know that, but money was the end game in a lot of the brands and a lot of the businesses. And so I was fortunate enough to have that, that brand building at Wilson Sporting Goods with the fast pitch division. I was fortunate enough
mhm,
to have that at
mhm,
JetBoil, where they gave me the space to really understand who the consumer is, understand the white space and build product. And then I'm back in that same role where we are truly brand building for the long term versus just a short term money grab at the end of the day.
Is maturity in leadership about doing more or doing less?
It depends. It depends on the team. It depends on the project. It depends on your resources. So I think it truly depends on what you have access to. I tend to think it's more. We talked a little bit about this earlier. It's about compassion. It's about understanding the tools you have and the levers you can pull, and it's about trust. Trusting who you have on your team, not micromanaging, and allowing people to make decisions. Not everybody
Mm,
knows everything, and if you have the trust within your team, you have open communication, I think that allows everybody to play their part because you need
mhm.
multiple key team members to be successful.
You've had this beautiful progression, but you're not done. What are you still figuring out?
This position for me scratches a huge entrepreneurship itch. I'm fortunate enough that the business has been around for about 4 years. My role right now is to expand it into different channels and in different categories. And so while it is, solid business, it gives me the opportunity to build something new. It gives me the leverage and the flexibility and the entrepreneurship to go and build something and still have a solid foundation behind it.
What excites you most about the outdoor industry right now?
I just got back from Paris. So I was in Paris for there's a great trade show. It's called Welcome Edition, and then Fashion Week was going on at the same time. And social media obviously, knows what you're up to and the things you're following. And so I continue to get inundated with a lot of, new and emerging brands. And I think just the fashion of it all. I don't think, we're still very early. This is a very early adapter, but the fashion that I'm seeing coming out of the outdoor industry is so exciting to me. I think it is going to be a different landscape in the next couple years, and I'm ready. And I think that's a huge opportunity for Thacker because that's what we are. We're bridging fashion and function. And I'm really excited to see kind of what comes out of this and how this continues to evolve. We do not need any more puffer vests in this world. We do not need any more fleece jackets. What we do need is unique perspective. We do need new colors. We do need women's, tailored for the women's body. We do need new and different ideas out there. We need to break through the sea of sameness. And I think we're right on the cusp of it. I think, it'll be really exciting to see what new brands emerge in these next few years.
Yeah, that reminds me, one of my favorite comedians, his name is Jim Gaffigan,
Mm.
and I don't remember if this was one of the ones that we saw him live. He's from Indiana also, so he's got
Mhm.
the he definitely likes to do shows there. His joke, I'm gonna butcher the joke, but it goes along with what you're saying. And his joke was, and this is to everyone in the Pacific Northwest, I love you all, my customers, my friends. He said when he's up there doing shows, and the joke goes something like this. He goes, everyone, no matter where you see them, in offices or on the road, they're always ready to go for a hike. And he was talking about their clothing, the flannel,
Uh-huh.
the hiking boots. And I'm with you on this. I want to see fashion take over in the outdoor industry because I don't always want to go out looking like I'm about to go on a hike.
Yep. We were skiing last week in Colorado and we have this amazing poncho and it is this gem pearl like or purple gem color. And we went skiing on Thursday. We're taking a break. So this is Friday. We're just walking around the village. And I had my boots on, I had my ski pants, and I had this amazing purple jewel poncho on. 20 people stopped and were like, "What? What is this? What are you wearing?" And I was like, "Oh, this is Thacker. This is, our new poncho." They're like, "Where do I get it?" And I just did it just to get, one, because it's super amazing and comfortable and it was the perfect temperature just to throw in a poncho. But two, it was so amazing to see just the immediate reaction from these people. And skiing on the hill, you have amazing company. Helly Hansen, they stood out to me in terms of the color pops on the ski pants and jackets. There was a few others that stood out, but Helly Hansen really caught my eye as we're President's Day weekend skiing with thousands and thousands of people. But I didn't see anything else like that. And when I came back from Paris, that's exactly what we went for a market visit, but that's exactly what I came back with is there's nothing else out there like this in the market. And that can be really good or it can be really bad. And, I think we need to position ourselves in how do we continue to evolve this fashion in the outdoor industry. And we want to be a big part of that.
Independent of, I guess it would be Aspen, my neighbor down here, we were on a catamaran
Hmm.
and she's a fashion designer. And then she starts talking through all being maybe like two of these brands that are outdoor specific brands, but they're in Aspen. And she's like, the fashion is coming. It's coming. Look
Yeah.
at this brand. Look at this CEO.
Yeah.
And I think it's coming. And that's cool that the poncho got so much attention because it is sharp.
And then all my girlfriends are like, "Can I wear it tomorrow? Can I wear it?" I'm like, "Yeah."
I love that. Have you read or listened to anything recently that shifted how you think?
One of my favorite books that I read and reread and I make my team read is hold on, let me grab it really quick. It's Running with Purpose. And so it's the CEO of Brooks. And the whole book is about how it's a David and Goliath story about how Brooks Running came into the scene, stayed true to their core, and really overtook the running industry. And this was years ago, but I think it has resonance with today's brand. Brooks is still on fire, but it stays true to what On has done, what Hoka has done, and it's really gets into the details about staying true to the brand, staying true to having focus. That earlier you asked me what people miss, and it's focus. It's really having an eye on the prize and making sure your 3 to 5 year strategy continues to align with that. Yes, it can deviate, it can shift, it can move, but it can't be a pinball. It can't go back and forth, back and forth. You have to keep that focus in future focus in line, and that's exactly what Brooks did. And so that's a really good book that I recommend, just in terms of brand and strategy and in how to stay focused on long term versus short term wins.
I've not yet read Running with Purpose, but that's on my list.
And
And it aligns. It's often when I meet a new executive, a question I typically ask is, what are two brands you have respect for right now? And it was always surprising to me years ago that people were already onto Brooks. And when I say years ago, maybe like 12 years ago, people were like, Brooks is doing something special. So I need to read that book. I
Yeah.
appreciate that recommendation. If you met someone in year 2 or 3 of their career in this industry, what would you tell them?
Two things: relationships. Relationships accelerate everything. have a seat at the table, be a part of the conversations. I think, unfortunately, what work from home has really affected and it's a detriment to some of the early people in their career. It's not being in the office, not having, a war chat with somebody that you may have not had the opportunity to. And so relationships to me are one of the most important things you can do. So if you're ever invited to anything, even if you don't want to go, make the time. Follow up with people, continue to connect, whether it's on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very much like social media. The more interaction you get, the more, the more content that will get served to you. And so relationships, continue to build your network, continue to keep people. Even I still talk to my colleagues from actually the head coach at Loyola just called me yesterday and wanted to say hi. So that was, 15, 17 years ago. And so it's keep in contact with people over your career. The second I would say is figure out what you are good at, not what you want to do, not what you think is cool, not what everybody else is telling you what to do. Figure out what you are good at and chase that. It is so important that you understand, you kind of internalize what you're good at, what you like to do. That will help you in your career and ultimately what you want to do long term.
Relationships, of course, 100%. It's unique data point in my business is at a certain level of career. I'm just going to take a broad stroke, director level. If I reach out to them, 60% of people I've never contacted with who know what I do will reach back out to me.
Mm-hmm.
If I do a search under that level, it drops to 25%.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I'm biased, but if you're in this industry and you know who I am, or you at least do a little bit of cursory research on my background, that relationship, even like you and I, where I actually knew who you were 2 or 3 roles before we actually met, the relationships are what you, like you said, they help accelerate your career, your progression, your earning power, doing things that you want to do. And the second part about figuring out what you're good at, I love that because it's something I talk about quite a bit. If I'm evaluating an executive or a senior leader in our industry, I want to know what they're most marketable. Like, where are they most marketable? Because that's where the value a company or brand in our industry is going to look for when they're looking for that type of person. So that's excellent. What do you wish someone had told you earlier?
To go until someone tells you to stop. Too often we are looking for approval in this world of social media. Acceptance, approval is so highly warranted. Everybody's looking for that. At the end of the day, go. Just go. Do the thing. Don't stop and wait for approval. If you're doing the wrong thing, someone's going to tell you. And if you're doing the right thing, you probably won't get praised for doing it. But do it anyways, because it further moves things along the road. I think, we continue to get roadblocked and like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm waiting for this person to give me the go-ahead. Just go. Just go until someone tells you to stop.
I love that. One of my very first sales managers, his name was Kurt. He said, make the decision. If it's wrong, apologize. But always go.
Yeah, go.
And when you zoom out, what do you hope you're building?
Honestly, a good life, a happy life. I have 2 kids, a loving husband. We love to travel. So I hope that I'm building a good role model for my kids. I hope that I continue to work for amazing brands and that I really enjoy what I do. I've always loved what I do. I look at other people's career who are maybe miserable. I'm like, why would you do that? My dad taught me at a very young age of do lots of things and figure out what you like to do, right? The old quote that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I can honestly say that. I love what I do. I love working with people. I love working with brands. So I hope I continue to teach my kids that, teach people around me that, and have really meaningful relationships in this world. It's all too short So live life, have fun, and love what you do.
What you're building is beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today, Sara.